Hi, Abraham. First, I'd like to express my high-octane, turbocharged stream of appreciation. I begin my day listening to your recordings in traffic on KT Freeway, by the way. And I find that's the best way to begin the day. Thank you. My question is on responding to negative emotions. So, after hearing your teachings, I began enjoying negative emotions. Like, what I mean is, I know that my guidance system is working.
Perfect.
So,
yes.
But sometimes I wonder if I'm responding to it by thinking downstream thoughts, or whether I'm numbing the sensations, whether I'm ignoring my guidance with the head in the sand.
Well, we liked the word that you began with when you said responding to negative emotion. That's really good. Responding. What should my response to negative emotion be? Should I panic? Oh, what must I be attracting the way I feel? What is a response to negative emotion? What is the best possible response to negative emotion? What do you think?
I think it's to be happy that the guidance system is working.
So awareness of what? My guidance system is working, and what's it telling me? Simple. It's saying that negative emotion is saying, this thought that's active in me right now doesn't jive, is out of alignment, doesn't agree, is nothing like the thought that the inner being within me is thinking about the same thing at the same time. Now that tells you a lot. First, it tells you the source is aware of you, doesn't it? In other words, you couldn't have negative emotion if there wasn't a disparity in the emotion. If there wasn't a difference in the vibrational focus, you couldn't have negative emotion. So it means what I'm thinking is different than what source thinks. That's a wonderful response to that. But then what's the response to that? If source clearly is feeling differently, thinking differently, vibrating differently than I am, then what would the best possible response be that I could offer? I'm going to try to think myself into alignment with source. So feel around. What we've noticed is the more specific you are, let's start another place. So there's wanted and unwanted. The more specifically you are focused on unwanted, the worse you feel. The more specifically you are focused upon wanted, the better you feel. So if you're specifically focused, let's say something's happened and you've really been at it, you're in detail, you've had lots of conversations with lots of people, it's really active in your vibration, so it feels quite strong and quite steadily strong. Well, it seems like my response should be, I should just start being very specifically positive. But you can't make that jump. So the response is, get more general in your negative attention. That's the way to back away from it. In other words, because you can't go cold turkey. That's what Esther says to Jerry. I'm going to get better on this, but I don't think I can go cold turkey. And she's playing about it and being accurate about it with herself. But also, there's a law of attraction reason that no one can just all of a sudden think entirely differently than they've been thinking. It's because the way you've been thinking is what's probably the way you're going to keep thinking. You just want to generally move it on that topic, you see. So, did you hear us earlier when we said that you are in the vortex every day? So if you're in the vortex every day and you're doing work from inside the vortex, which simply is milking it, then when you have this negative emotion and you're saying, what should my response be? Well, you can't necessarily just jump in the vortex. And you can't necessarily, in that moment, just stop thinking that thought because it's active. And law of attraction's dishing up more thoughts like it. But you do have the ability and the power to de-emphasize it, to make it more general, to make it less specific. Do you want to give us an example of a negative thought, and we'll show you how we would soften it?
For example, thoughts on the economy, say. So I know that I have not changed my perspective. I'm just ignoring it. So I'm worried that it'll just get bigger.
And what emotion, does it bring an emotion of fear or concern?
Concern, yes.
So I'm aware that I have concern. What should be my response? First, my inner being must not be thinking the same way I am. So my inner being isn't concerned. My inner being does not think about the economy in the way. Now, let's start again. We want you to first accept that Source is aware of you and that you are an extension of Source. So it's not like Source is frivolously not concerned because it has nothing to do with Source. Source is intimately involved in everything that you were involved in. So it's not that Source doesn't need to worry about it because it doesn't have anything to do with Source. It has everything to do with Source. Source just isn't a worrier because Source isn't a problem focuser. So when you acknowledge, so you feel negative emotion, you say, what should my response be? First, I'm happy that I felt it because my guidance is working. Next, I'm happy that I'm aware that Source is seeing it differently. I'm going to see if I can't see it more like Source sees it. And then you try to see it more like Source sees it. But don't try so hard that you dig in and try to, it's like the game we play with these money and manifestation affirmation cards. If you're out of the vortex and worried about something, let's say you are in that place of concern about money, and so you say, well, I'll take these wonderful cards and I will affirm I can see my world through the eyes of Source. That's interesting that is the one that comes up. I can see my world through the eyes of Source. No, I can't really, because I've got negative emotion. I'm feeling negative emotion. Clearly, I am not seeing my world through the eyes of Source. That card shouldn't be in there. The law of attraction responds to my vibration. I don't like that one either. Whenever I'm feeling good, I am attracting good. Give it a rest. There's not one good card in this whole deck. Because when you are feeling that way, then making too strong of an effort just sort of makes you dig in. You understand what we're getting at. And so if you make a softer effort because these cards, you have to understand, we wrote these, they're brilliant. But we wrote them from inside the vortex. They are very high vibrational frequency. And if you're feeling concern about money and you are trying to hammer yourself over the head with these very high vibrational cards, they just make you mad. Or they make you more aware that you're not where you want to be than you were before you were reading them. Why would anyone make cards like this? Because you have to understand how to use an affirmation card. You have to understand that you're wanting to do all of your affirming from inside the vortex. But first you got to be in there. And so, how do I respond to negative emotion? My guidance system is working. It clearly is telling me that Source is looking at it differently. So I'm going to try to de-emphasize or make more general this specific thought that I'm thinking. So the specific thought is something like, the economy is bad and I don't know how that's going to impact me, and it seems like it is impacting me in this way and in this way and in this way. And as I look around, I see evidence of bad economy here and bad economy here. Specific. So now you try to be more general. I don't have to think about this now. The pendulum always swings. There are always boom times and times of greater trauma. There are people who thrive under all conditions. It always does come back. There is evidence of well-being around. There are some people who thrive in all economic times. I really don't have to think about this right now. No, I'm doing all right.
If I don't think about it right now, then perhaps I'm being insensitive to it.
But hear what we're saying. What you were thinking about it right then when you said, I don't really have to think about it right now. In other words, this is softer. I don't have to get specific about this right now. I'm going to think about it in a general way. I'm going to think about it in a way that gives me ease. I'm going to think about it in a way that allows me to feel more what Source feels about it. I'm going to feel generally good, even though Source is feeling specifically good. And eventually, I'll be able to feel specifically good like Source is feeling specifically good. But right now, I can't feel specifically good because I just came from feeling specifically bad. But I'm going to feel generally bad. The way it goes is specifically focused, which feels really bad. Less specifically focused, which doesn't feel so bad. Generally focused on what I don't want, which doesn't feel so bad. Then generally focused on what I do want, which feels, that's when you feel your first noticeable relief. Then more specifically focused upon what you do want, which feels like more relief. And more specifically focused upon what you do want, which begins to feel like hope. And then more specifically focused, which begins to feel like belief and knowing, until you're feeling passionate like Source feels. Source has never felt more passionate about the expansion and the well-being of this planet than Source feels right here, right now. Because there is more in the vortex than has ever been there before. You are your greatest height of expansion. And the potential for satisfying in manifested form that vibrational expansion is greater than it's ever been, because there are more people aware of their emotions, more people wanting to tend to their own vibration than has ever been before. You see what we're getting at? These are better times than ever, not worse times than ever. There is no regression. There's no going back. There's only expansion. But there can be someone holding themselves apart from who they are, which feels pretty darn bad. It's like there's a song some time ago, why do the stars keep on shining? Don't they know it's the end of the world? It ended when I lost my love. In other words, don't they know why? Why are the people happy out there? Don't they feel what I feel? No, because what you feel is only about the vibration between you and you. But when there's an economic climate or something going on where a lot of people are feeling some of the same things, then you start sort of vibing off each other. And it's not to your advantage. But at the same time that more people are worried and vibing off each other, there's this really extra robust vortex of creation over here that's vibing too, that's attracting all the cooperative components. And that's why when that pendulum swings, it really swings. That's why, don't you find it interesting how suddenly things got so bad? You were just bipping along, everything seemed pretty good, and suddenly the whole world seemed to economically come to an end. No, it didn't. There were just some people who don't understand anything about vibration, that in order to serve their own, what they thought was their higher good, got you all focused negatively in order to make you go along with something that they thought was a good idea for them. You see. And we don't give this to you because there's anything terrible about it. Everyone is selfishly oriented. Don't worry about people being selfishly oriented and trying to do what they think is best for them. It's what makes the world go round. You have the ability to personally cope with that. You have the ability to let that happen and let it stir something personally in you, vividly in you. In other words, these people that were at the heart of this economic thing are no different than our friend's lover, who just harassed him into greater expansion. Except you've been harassed into really great expansion, you see. And when you feel fear or concern, you're not lined up with the expansion that you've been harassed into. And that's what your response to negative emotion is. Oh, I must have expanded and I must not be going. There must be something, because if I hadn't expanded, I wouldn't feel this discomfort. If the expansion hadn't happened, the discomfort wouldn't be within me right here and now. So a great response to negative emotion is, I must have really expanded. There must be something really good that I'm on my way to, where Source is already there. And so the good news is Source is calling me. The good news is when I lighten up by being less specifically focused, the vortex can pull me closer and closer and closer. The good news is I'm going to feel better and better. The good news is relief feels good all along the way. The good news is I can't get it wrong and I never get it done. The good news is expansion is always mine to be had. And before you know it, you'll be in the vortex looking at it as the Source within you is saying, I really appreciate these highlighting experiences that have caused us globally to expand, which means our world, like it always has been, friends, Your world is getting better and better and better and better and better. You are not regressing.